Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we are going to be continuing to read the Iliad. So, let's get going. Her sister captives echoed groan for groan, nor mourned Patroclus's fortunes but their own. The leaders pressed the chief on every side, unmoved he heard them and with sighs denied. If yet Achilles have a friend whose care is bent to please him, this request forbear. Till yonder sun descend, let me pay to grief and anguish one abstemious day. He spoke, and from the warriors turned his face, yet still the brother kings of Atreus' race. Nestor, Idomeneus, Ulysses sage, and Phoenix strive to calm his grief and rage. His rage they calm not, nor his grief control. He groans, he raves, he sorrows from his soul. Thou too, Patroclus, thus his heart he vents, once spread the inviting banquet in our tents. Thy sweet society, thy winning care, once stayed Achilles rushing to the war. But now, alas, to death's cold arms resigned, what banquet but revenge can glad my mind? What greater sorrow could afflict my breast? What more if hoary Peleus were deceased? Who now perhaps in Phthia dreads to hear his son's sad fate, and drops a tender tear? What more should Neoptolemus the brave, my only offspring, sink into the grave? If yet that offspring lives, I distant far, of all neglectful wage a hateful war. I could not this cruel stroke attend. Fate claimed Achilles, but might spare his friend. I hoped Patroclus might survive to rear my tender orphan with a parent's care. From Scyros' isle conduct him o'er the main, and glad his eyes with his paternal reign. The lofty palace and the large domain, for Peleus breathes no more the vital air, or drags a wretched life of age and care. But till the news of my sad fate invades his hastening soul and sinks him to the shades. Sighing he said, his grief the heroes joined, each stole a tear from what he left behind. Their mingled grief the sire of heaven surveyed, and thus with pity to his blue-eyed maid: Is then Achilles now no more thy care, and dost thou thus desert the great in war? Lo, where yon sails their canvas wings extend, all comfortless he sits and wails his friend. Ere thirst and want his forces have oppressed, haste and infuse ambrosia in his breast. He spoke, and sudden at the word of Jove shot the descending goddess from above. So swift through ether the shrill harpy springs, the wide air floating to her ample wings. To great Achilles she her flight addressed, and poured divine ambrosia in his breast. 259. With nectar sweet refection of the gods, then swift ascending sought the bright abodes. Now issued from the ships the warrior train, and like a deluge poured upon the plain, as when the piercing blasts of Boreas blow, and scatter o'er the fields the driving snow. From dusky clouds the fleecy winter flies, whose dazzling lustre whitens all the skies. So helms succeeding helms, so shields from shields, catch the quick beams and brighten all the fields. Broad glittering breastplates, spears with pointed rays, mix in one stream, reflecting blaze on blaze. Thick beats the centre as the coursers bound, with splendour flame the skies and laugh the fields around. Full in the midst, high towering o'er the rest, his limbs in arms divine Achilles dressed, arms which the father of the fire bestowed, forged on the eternal anvils of the god. Grief and revenge his furious heart inspire, his glowing eyeballs roll with living fire. He grinds his teeth, and furious with delay, o'erlooks the embattled host and hopes the bloody day. The silver cuishes first his thighs enfold, then o'er his breast was braced the hollow gold. The brazen sword a various baldric tied, that starred with gems hung glittering at his side. And like the moon the broad refulgent shield blazed with long rays and gleamed athwart the field. So to night-wandering sailors pale with fears, wide o'er the watery waste a light appears, which on the far-seen mountain blazing high streams from some lonely watchtower to the sky. With mournful eyes they gaze and gaze again, loud howls from the storm and drives them o'er the main. Next his high head the helmet graced behind, the sweepy crest hung floating in the wind. Like the red star that from his flaming hair shakes down diseases, pestilence, and war, so streamed the golden honours from his head. Trembled the sparkling plumes and the loose glories shed. The chief beholds himself with wondering eyes, his arms he poises and his motions tries. Buoyed by some inward force he seems to swim, and feels a pinion lifting every limb. And now he shakes his great paternal spear, ponderous and huge, which not a Greek could rear. From Pelion's cloudy top and ash entire, old Chiron felled and shaped it for his sire. A spear which stern Achilles only wields, the death of heroes and the dread of fields. Automedon and Alcimus prepare the immortal coursers and the radiant car. The silver traces sweeping at their side, their fiery mouths resplendent bridles tied. The ivory-studded reins returned behind, waved o'er their backs and to the chariot joined. The charioteer then whirled the lash around, and swift ascended at one active bound. All bright in heavenly arms above his squire, Achilles mounts and sets the field on fire. Not brighter Phoebus in the ethereal way flames from his chariot and restores the day. High o'er the host, all terrible, he stands, and thunders to his steeds these dread commands. Xanthus and Balius of Podrages' strain, unless ye boast that heavenly race in vain, be swift, be mindful of the load ye bear, and learn to make your master more your care. Through falling squadrons bear my slaughtering sword, nor as ye left Patroclus leave your lord. The generous Xanthus, as the words he said, seemed sensible of woe and drooped his head. Trembling he stood before the golden wain, and bowed to dust the honours of his mane. When strange to tell, so Juno willed, he broke eternal silence and portentous spoke. Achilles, yes, this day at least we bear thy rage in safety through the files of war. But come it will, the fatal time must come, not ours the fault, but God decrees thy doom. Not through our crime or slowness in the course fell thy Patroclus, but by heavenly force. The bright far-shooting God who gilds the day confessed we saw him, tore his arms away. No, could our swiftness o'er the winds prevail, or beat the pinions of the western gale, all were in vain, the fates thy death demand, due to a mortal and immortal hand. Then ceased forever by the Furies' tide, his fateful voice the intrepid chief replied. With unabated rage, so let it be. Portents and prodigies are lost on me. I know my fate, to die, to see no more my much-loved parents and my native shore. Enough when heaven ordains I sink in night. Now perish Troy, he said, and rushed to fight. And that has actually brought us to the end of the episode at quite a nice spot, because we're about to start the next book. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. So yeah, pretty good timing there. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night. No matter what time of day it is, I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. Excuse me. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.